Hello everybody, it's me Alexthehunted, and today we're looking at a Godzilla movie that seems to have been getting quite a resurgence in recent years. You see, today we're looking at Godzilla Vs Biollante. Now this movie was kind of a forgotten Godzilla movie for quite a few years, until it finally got a DVD release in 2014 and received a resurgence in fan popularity until the point it's considered now one of the best in the entire franchise. To such a point that in Japan in 2014, when they did a poll of all the Godzilla movies to celebrate his 60th anniversary, this one came third out of all the Godzilla movies, which is kind of weird because technically this is the first canon Godzilla fan fiction movie. You see, Toho held a pitch for Godzilla fans to pitch their own Godzilla movie, and well, this one won, and it was created, and well, is it the third best movie in the entire franchise? Well, let's take a look at Godzilla vs Biollante. So our movie begins with a look at some cells, Godzilla's cells to be precise, as we get our opening credits and a recap of what happened in the last Godzilla movie. You see, this was the biggest gap in between Godzilla movies in a series, not in between series. In the actual Godzilla series, you see, Return of Godzilla came out in 1984, whereas this movie didn't come out until 1989. So they had to kind of recap the past events because, well, DVDs and VHS didn't exist till this point. Also, the Heisei series and the Millennium series had a shorter gap than this movie and Return of Godzilla. Anyway, we're shown that Godzilla was dropped into a volcano, which they thought would kill him, but no, he's just sleeping now. Not even the Earth's molten lava can even do a scratch to Godzilla. We cut to the wreckage of Tokyo as the military are busy salvaging the wreckage of the Super X, as well as some scientists collecting some Godzilla cells. However, some freelance agents are also in the wreckage and they're collecting Godzilla cells as well, but they are discovered and gun down all the Japanese soldiers and make a break for it. These scenes feel like they came out of an 80s B action movie, and I just love the music. It's all like a disco theme with a little bit of the Godzilla theme tune in it. Anyway, as they get away, murdering a load of Japanese soldiers, we find out that these guys are freelance agents for an American company called Biomajor. Now, in the real world, if the government found out about this happening, this would cause a diplomatic disaster that might even cause a third world war. But that doesn't happen. What actually happens in this movie is the Japanese Prime Minister doesn't actually care. In fact, we never see him, and we're just told that he has more important things to deal with. Anyway, as the Biomajors make their escape, they are killed by another freelance agent, who is one of those badass suave assassins who doesn't have that many lines and is always wearing sunglasses. He takes the cells and gives them to Saradia, a fictional Middle East country that only appears in this movie. It's where we meet one of our main characters, Dr. Jesus. Look, I have dyslexia, so please forgive me for butchering these Japanese names. It's just really hard for me to read. His name is Dr. Gensiro Sarigami. Something like that. He works for the Saradia company called OPEC, as well as his daughter Erica. They're heading to the lab because the Godzilla cells have been delivered, and we see them all happy and loving and driving happily to work together, so we know one of them's gonna die. It's just a beautiful matte painting out today. Anyway, Erica goes to the lab to work on her magic roses, which they're being developed so they can create a sort of magical crop that can grow in a desert. As the doctor goes to his boss to talk about the Godzilla cells, which they think now that they have these cells they can finally make this plant. However, just as they're about to talk about how great this is, the lab is blown up in an attack, blowing up the Godzilla cells and also killing Erica. Cut to 5 years later, where we are introduced to one of the most important characters in the Heisei Godzilla series, Mickey. Mickey appears in every single Godzilla movie after this in the Heisei series. She is basically a sidekick that the military likes to use to help with their plans to defeat Godzilla. But she has a sort of connection with Godzilla, a psychic link as you were. She actually cares a lot about him, even so far in later movies that she cares for Godzilla's son. However, she's not an annoying character. She never tries and stops the military's plans to defeat and even kill Godzilla. In fact, sometimes she even helps them. She pilots the Mechagodzilla robot in a later film. But she sees Godzilla as an amazing, just stunning creature, but she understands that he is deadly and can just kill a lot of people, so he has to be stopped. So how do they introduce this really important character in the first movie? She's a psychic lady that can talk to plants. Anyway, we discover over those 5 years that the Doctor has kind of gone insane, as we find out he spliced Erica's DNA with her rose plants in hopes of her living through those plants. And he wanted Mickey to psychically talk to those roses to see if Erica's actually there. And saying this out loud makes me realise how off his rocker this Doctor has become. Anyway, it turns out the Doctor is being watched by both Biomajor and the freelance assassins from earlier. And as Mickey is about to leave, she hears the plants calling for the Doctor. And I do love the face that Mickey's teacher gives when Mickey says that she can hear the plants calling. It's just like she's going, well, this is my life. We cut to Mount Mahara, the same volcano Godzilla fell into. As we see, it's starting to show signs of an eruption, with earth tremors and small explosions coming from the volcano's mouth. As we go to a psychic school that Mickey's teaching at, she brings her head of the school, saying that all the pupils have been having the same dream, and Mickey started having the dream as well, as she tells the class to show what they've been drawing.
All right now, children, let us see what you dreamed of, okay?
Again, I just love the face that the teacher gives in this. She's clearly thinking, oh, fuck. So we head to the Godzilla Defense Base where we meet the best character in this movie, Lieutenant Goro Gondo, who is just a badass. He never really gets angry in this movie, but he takes everything seriously. However, he is clearly having a great time doing what he's doing. Anyway, Mickey is taken to Mount Mahara where she gets a psychic vision that Godzilla is awake. And the Japanese government don't really believe them, and let's be honest, you can kind of see why, because all the evidence they have is that of a psychic child and children's drawings. But, you know, they do take a little bit seriously, but they're kind of like, is this the best you've got? So the government tell them to start to get ready just in case, and we find out that the military have been researching this anti-nuclear energy bacteria, which is being developed just in case anything happens to one of the Japanese nuclear plants. That would cause a sort of nuclear radiation spill. They would release the bacteria into the spill, and the bacteria would basically eat up all the radiation and destroy it all, eliminating all the radiation from the area. In other words, stopping something like Chernobyl from happening. But the G-Force think that this can be made into a weapon against Godzilla. However, to make it work, they need some scientists to work on the bacteria and change it slightly for it to work on Godzilla. So they go to Dr. G and try and convince him to work with them. However, he refuses because Godzilla cells is what got Erica killed, and he has vowed never to work with them again. Anyway, while the scientists are busy collecting Godzilla's cells, another volcanic tremor happens which causes Erica's roses to get smashed up. And the Doctor risks losing the only thing of his daughters he has left. So he agrees to join the nuclear bacteria project, only on one condition. He gets to keep the Godzilla cells for himself for 1 week. Which, for some reason, the scientists and the military have no problem handing over this incredibly valuable and dangerous material over, with no surveillance or guards to make sure the Doctor doesn't do anything completely insane with it. So what's the first thing the Doctor does with these cells? He combines them with Erica's rose, of course, in a very insane hope that this would bring her back to life again. I can't see this backfiring in any way whatsoever. I mean, all he's doing is gene splicing the DNA of a rose containing the DNA of his dead daughter with that of a gigantic, indestructible god beast that has never been killed. I can't see this going wrong in any way whatsoever. Oh, he's also doing his experiment in the middle of a storm with lightning flashing and everything. So we know nothing bad will come from him playing God. So as our scientists and the company which will be providing the lab to make the bacteria are discussing the implications of making such a bacteria and how this could possibly make an even worse monster or weapon, in the Doctor's lab, said monster is busy being made as we get some weird scenes of, well, just biology happening. Back at the volcano, a man with 2 really big moles on his face shows the G-Force that Godzilla is in fact waking up and is starting to move. I'm just wondering, if lava isn't even enough to phase Godzilla, then what is he doing in there? Splish splash, I was taking a bath. On about Saturday night, So the military prepare their new and improved Super X, the Super X2. This one is now remote controlled and has the ability to dive underwater. It has also been fitted with a new weapon, a sort of reflection mirror that has synthetic diamonds aboard it which can absorb Godzilla's radioactive heat ray and fire it back at him, which the military insist will defeat Godzilla. Back at the doctor's lab, Biomajor break in and start to steal all the notes that they have about the nuclear bacteria, so they can make the stuff themselves. However, our cool assassin comes in and starts firing at them, also after the notes. However, their battle is interrupted as it seems Poison Ivy is also after these notes, as vines come out and kill one of the Biomajor's men. As the other man makes his escape, forgetting about the notes, our cool assassin is attacked by... Oh god, no, it's turning into one of these. God damn it, Japan, can't you just keep this in your anime? No, that thankfully doesn't happen, as the assassin cuts himself free and also makes a run for it.
Hello, is that the doctor? I'll call back later.
That morning, the police and the scientists look over the scene, as the other scientist starts getting mad at the doctor for, well, basically, playing God and oh look, it's gone wrong. However, I do have to point out a continuity error that this movie's dub makes.
The bodies belong to two of Biomajor's agents.
We only saw one person die on screen, and the others just ran away. So, who's the other guy who died?
In the experiment, I thought I'd created an immortal plant species. I gave it self-reproducing abilities using Godzilla cells. You did what? Yes, I think now I may have made a mistake.
Yeah, now that I think about it, combining the cells of an indestructible monster with that of a plant might have been really, really stupid. Later that day, Biomajor send a threat to the Japanese government that if they do not hand over the anti-nuclear bacteria, they will blow up Mount Mahara and release Godzilla into Japan. The Japanese government quickly give in, and I can honestly completely see why, and tell the scientists to hand over the bacteria. But just before they're about to do so, Mickey's teacher rushes in to say that they should head to the lake, as we see a gigantic rose plant has grown, which turns out to be the plant that the doctor made earlier.
I just can't believe it. What you're seeing there is no ordinary plant.
Really? You don't say! I would have thought this was completely normal in Japan! Anyway, the doctor gives the plant the name of Biollante, the same name of a legend of a plant with a human soul in it, which Mickey's teacher says must be Erica's because Mickey can hear her calling out to them, and I'm guessing in screams of pain and revenge for doing this to her.
Are you proud of this? What kind of science you call this?
Mad science! Anyway, the scientist, and by the way, yes, I know he has a name, I'm just calling him scientist because it's an easier thing to pronounce than his actual name, and Lieutenant Goro head off to a meeting point with Biomajor. Assassin Guy interrupts the exchange and kills the other Biomajor man as he tries to make his escape. And he steals the bacteria while the scientist and Goro desperately try to deactivate the bombs, but they sadly run out of time. And really, I just love Goro in all these scenes because he's such a badass. Even when they fail, he seems so happy about it, like, well, we're fucked, but God am I having such a good time. Also, I have to point out the music that's during this scene. It's just so out of place. They're trying to stop Godzilla from escaping a mountain. It's supposed to be tense and dramatic music, but actually this just sounds like something out of Looney Tunes. Anyway, they fail and the bombs explode, blowing up the mountain and releasing the king in one of his most badass entrances.
Cool guys don't look at explosions. They blow things up and then walk away.
So Goro points out the fact that Godzilla has just escaped and the anti-nuclear bacteria, the one thing which they think can kill Godzilla, they have just lost. So yeah, it's not been a good... Ah! Wait, who the hell is that? What the hell is that? Okay, just cut away from that for no reason. Who the hell was that? He kind of looked like a Japanese Count Dracula. Well, yeah, after that, cameo? News spreads of Godzilla's return, and the military quickly deploy all their ships in some bad CGI, only for Godzilla to have them blow him up. So the Super X2 is deployed in some really cheesy music that sounds like it belongs in a 60s Superman cartoon. One of the main characters, Major Sho, is put in charge of dealing with Godzilla, and the higher-ups in the military show some hostility to having to take orders from basically a kid. So the Super X2 begins attacking Godzilla and actually does a good job. The fire mirror actually works and even causes Godzilla to give up on heading to Japan and dives underwater to go west. The Super X2 giving chase and diving after him. With everything for once going well, Sho finds out that the bacteria has been stolen and that they should close down all the Japanese airports to stop any chance of the assassin guy getting out of Japan. However, Saradia has an oil company, so they plan to take the bacteria by boat unless our heroes get there first, so the chase is on. Back at the river, vines start attacking the harbour, and the vines are mutated to have jaws attached to them. As Mickey feels that Erica might not be there in Biollante, being made from Godzilla's cells, that this could basically just be a plant version of Godzilla. As Mickey senses that Biollante was actually calling out to Godzilla and he is getting closer. Back with the Big G still fighting the Super X2, things start going wrong because, well, the military didn't factor in that Godzilla's radioactive heat ray will be hot. And the fire mirror starts to melt and breaks. And soon Godzilla shoots it down with his beam and damages it by hitting it with his tail, causing it to be taken out of action. Then Godzilla soon makes it to Biollante.
What's going on out there?
Our opponent will be the winner of that contest, sir.
He didn't ask that, kid. Biollante begins attacking Godzilla, wrapping him up with her vines. And dear God, Japan, can't you just keep this in your anime? I'm sorry I've made this joke a second time, but it's such an easy joke to make. As the fight continues, the Doctor is wondering why Godzilla came all this way to see Biollante. And he thinks that because they're made of the same cells, that they might just be identically the same. Well, apart from the fact that they look absolutely nothing like each other. Anyway, I kind of have a problem with this fight. You see, Godzilla is basically fighting a plant, and plants aren't known for, well, moving. So there's not much that really happens in this fight. The vines wrap around Godzilla and Godzilla blasts them with his atomic breath. I don't even think Godzilla makes physical contact with Biollante throughout this entire fight. Well, apart from his vines, I mean. But I will say this is one of the most messy fights in the Godzilla franchise. There's just green liquid flowing everywhere. Anyway, Godzilla blasts Biollante with his beam, setting her on fire, as she turns into glitter and floats away into the sky. But not before giving us a taste of what's to come. The Doctor claiming that there's no way that she can die, and she's immortal. But, okay, fine, sure, whatever. It is a Godzilla cell monster, so I guess it's technically right. Anyway, the next day Godzilla has gone back to sea, while the military are out searching for him, as they also quickly try and fix the Super X2. However, they say there is no way they can fix the fire mirror because, well, Godzilla's melted it. The military use Mickey to try and help them find Godzilla, while the military conclude that Godzilla is looking for nuclear material to eat because of his loss of energy fighting the Super X2 and Biollante. So Major Sho does one of the stupidest things I think I've ever seen the military do in one of these movies. He sends everything the Japanese military has to this one location he thinks Godzilla will show up. With not much proof that he will, it's just a theory, he sends it all to one position in the hopes Godzilla will show up there. He has no backup plan, and if Godzilla does show up somewhere else, then the military have nothing to defend him and drive him off with. And as we get a montage of the Japanese military coming together as well as the Super X2 being put back in action, oh look, Godzilla has shown up, nowhere near where they thought he would be. My God, I can see why the military heads were slightly hostile towards this idiot when they first met him, because he's in charge of the force that's supposed to be able to deal with Godzilla, and its commander is a kid who has never fought Godzilla and has no experience with dealing with him. In fact, I don't think it was even said that this kid has had any control of any military operation up to this point. So why the hell is he in charge?
We may be able to beat it.
And then what happens to Osaka?
The task I was given was to defeat Godzilla, sir.
And you're doing an awful goddamn job of it. All of this destruction and all of these deaths that are going to happen are entirely your responsibility because you didn't think of other possibilities. You put all your eggs in one basket and you were wrong. You were outsmarted by a lizard. Well done. So Mickey heads close to Godzilla to try and use her psychic abilities to get Godzilla's attention and to delay him. By having him, I guess, have some kind of mind games with him or something like that to try and control him, I think. What do you want, kid? Fine, I'll come over, but this had better be good. I'm goddamn starving. However, it's not long before Godzilla overpowers Mickey with his superior mind, breaking the connection and causing Mickey to faint. Godzilla just walking off like nothing happened. Well, that was a waste of time. I'm gonna go get something to eat. So as Osaka is busy being evacuated because he will be arriving soon, Goro and the scientists make it to the Serario office to retrieve the bacteria. Luckily, one of the higher-ups is just about to leave with the bacteria, just as Goro and the scientists come in and, well, Goro just comes off as one suave badass as he fights the man to get the bacteria back as the scientist delivers the knockout blow. I'm sorry, is this Looney Tunes or a Godzilla movie? And with that, the Seradio business boss basically gives up on getting the bacteria. However, he wants to make sure the Japanese can't make any more of it and tells the assassin to kill the doctor and the scientists to make sure they can't make any more. Huh! I completely forgot about that. So Godzilla arrives and we get some nice destruction scenes set to the Godzilla theme. And it's always fun and it never gets boring to watch. And I will say the miniatures used in these destruction scenes are really good. However, we do get some blue screen shots of people running away from the destruction and they don't look good at all. So the new plan is to use the Super X2 to guide Godzilla to the business park buildings where Goro and his team will fire missiles with the bacteria loaded into them into Godzilla that will hopefully just do the job. So as Goro and his team are rushing to the position, the Super X2 launches its attack. Not meant to kill Godzilla, just to get its attention. However, they soon run out of missiles, so Sho orders them to use the fire mirror, even though he knows it's not been fixed and will not work, and will not be able to take a blast of Godzilla's ray, and even though the fact that they have Godzilla's attention and he is heading to the location that they need him to be at, he still orders them to use the fire mirror, and guess what? Godzilla blasts the Super X2 with his atomic breath, blowing it up and destroying it. Well done, Major Sho. Trillions of yen in research and technology has probably just gone up in flames because of you. The Japanese military must be so proud of you. It's actually funny because Major Sho doesn't show up in these movies again until Godzilla vs Destroyah. And only then he's a pilot. He's not in command of anything, he is taking orders. So I just kind of get the feeling that he got fired for this. Anyway, the plan works and the troops fire their missiles, injecting Godzilla with the anti-nuclear bacteria. Goro tells his troops to get out of there, but he decides to hang back and give Godzilla one last shot of bacteria. Hey, you kind of just shot me there. That wasn't very nice of you. I think you should say sorry. God damn it, you just shot me in the throat. God damn it, I'm killing you. So yeah, sadly the best character in this movie, Goro, is killed. But he goes out like a goddamn badass. God bless you, you awesome man. Anyway, 14 hours later, Godzilla is still not dead, and it doesn't seem to be showing any signs of the bacteria affecting him. And through simple biology, which seems to have been lost on these military and scientific eggheads, they figure out that the bacteria isn't affecting Godzilla because, well, he's a cold-blooded animal, and the bacteria can't grow in the cold body that he has, so they need to heat him up somehow. So the plan is to use a scientific research tool used to make lightning to shock Godzilla with and heat him up, to get the bacteria working. The military start to get ready with some classic military music that's been used in many Godzilla movies. Anyway, back with Mickey, she uses some product placement to draw a rose in space, a sign of things to come. Back with the military, it starts to rain heavily, which would help the lightning. However, they don't point out the fact that wouldn't the rain also cool down Godzilla? It's never addressed. So anyway, we also see the return of the Maser tanks, which is the most common weapon the military use against kaiju attacks. So as Godzilla approaches, the plan starts, the military blasting Godzilla to get his attention to walk over to the lightning generators. And it starts to work, Godzilla getting shocked over and over, raising his temperature. The bacteria starting to affect him, causing Godzilla to stumble around a bit. However, it doesn't work fast enough and Godzilla is able to make it to the nuclear power plant. In some really bad special effects, which, this is a little nitpick I have about this movie, is Godzilla's sign does seem to vary a lot in this movie. I mean, there's even a deleted scene of Godzilla walking through a Japanese forest, and, you know, given the size of this Godzilla, how big are these trees? You know, it doesn't really add up. Then, Mickey and her teacher shows up saying that Biollante is not dead. Then the rain stops, and all of a sudden everything goes quiet, as the clouds start to light up and a ball of glitter falls into the ground, causing all the electronics to go haywire. As the doctor claims that it's Biollante, as all of the military just look at him like he's insane. The ground starts to shake and crumble away and opening up with vines shooting out everywhere, revealing the final form of Biollante. And I've got to say, this is some damn impressive monster suits. The sheer size and complexity of this thing is pretty amazing. It takes 20 people to operate this Biollante suit. And I think this is probably the best kaiju suit Toho have ever made. I think it's one of the best practical effects ever made. Just the sheer complexity and scale of the thing, it's just something brilliant to behold. Also, I should point out that Biollante is one of the few canon Toho monsters that's a female. Yep, Biollante's a girl. And, you know, knowing the Japanese with how they make females look, I'm kind of surprised she doesn't look sexy, but, you know, I don't know, looking at her, I think she's kind of a looker, don't you think? I see some beauty in that.
Biollante, she's evolving.
So the fight begins, and well, as impressive as the Biollante monster suit is, the big problem is it being so big and complicated to operate. There's not much really that happens in this fight. There's not much really they can do with this monster suit. I mean, it even gets to the point where to show Biollante moving, they have to repeat the same shot twice, because the suit was just so difficult to move. I mean, yes, Godzilla gets impaled, which I think is one of the first times in these movies you actually see Godzilla getting stabbed. And it is brutal, but it also shows how badass Godzilla is because he pulls out the vine inside of his hand by himself. Like, it doesn't even phase, he's just been stabbed through the hand. But not much really happens apart from, well, Godzilla fires his atomic breath a lot, and Biollante shoots its acid at Godzilla. Honestly, Biollante gets her ass kicked in this fight. Godzilla just blasts the hell out of her with his atomic breath. Also, this isn't a very long final battle. I actually timed it. From the fight beginning to the fight ending, including cuts to the human characters, this fight only lasts about 3 minutes and 16 seconds, which is kind of a disappointment. Also, no one really wins this fight, it just sort of stops. Godzilla walking off because the bacteria is starting to affect him so much that he staggers and completely collapses into the sea. And Biollante just turns back into glitter and flies off into the sky. The Doctor seeing Erica's face as it happens. You did this to me, you bastard! I'll haunt the shit out of you forever! Anyway, the businessman who helped make the anti-nuclear bacteria congratulates the Doctor and the scientist and gives them all jobs to help make the nuclear bacteria and put it into production. The Doctor declines, saying that it's weapons like that and the bacteria that will end up making more monsters like Godzilla and Biollante. However, the Doctor is then shot and killed by the assassin who tries to flee, but the other scientist gives chase, and we have a quick car chase and fight scene until the assassin is killed, well, more disintegrated, as he stands on one of the lightning machines and it is activated by Sho. Mickey's teacher meets up with the scientist, flirting with him, and they start making jokes just after their friend has died. Anyway, soon Godzilla awakens, the seawater cooling him down enough to cure him of the anti-nuclear bacteria. But instead of going on to destroy Japan, he's basically had enough and goes back into the sea. And Sho is congratulated for failing every single plan he had to defeat Godzilla. And with that we fly out with our ending credits to space as we see that there is a giant Rose Biollante flying in space, ready to destroy us all with poison ivy. And with that, our movie ends. And that was Godzilla vs Biollante. Is it one of the best in the entire Godzilla series? Well, I'm sorry, but for me, it's not. I'm not saying it's bad. I actually think it's a very good Godzilla movie, but I wouldn't be putting it in my top 10. It's close, but it wouldn't be in there. I mean, there is a lot to like in this movie. The acting and the practical effects are really, really good. And for a Godzilla story, this is a very original story. I do also really like these characters because they're not just good guys and bad guys. There are sort of people in the middle, like the Doctor. However, I will say there are some problems. The biggest one for me is the editing. It's very choppy at times and it does jump a lot. It does jump around a lot. The music isn't great. I think there's some real cheese in there, but sometimes it just feels really out of place. Also, there's a lot of storylines that just kind of go nowhere. I didn't even mention the fact that our scientist and Mickey's teacher were supposed to be flying off to America, but basically the movie completely forgets about that storyline until the end of the movie, and they just decide to, we're not going to do it. The Heisei series does get really good. The Heisei series is my favourite series of Godzilla movies, and it does get really good really soon. The next movie is a standout in the entire Godzilla franchise. But this is a good stepping stone to the good stuff. Not the best, but it's a good place to start from the Heisei series. I think it's definitely better than Godzilla's The Return of Godzilla. I would say give it a watch if you basically want to binge the Godzilla movies. Not essential viewing, but I would say it's a good watch. And with that, and probably all the hate comments you're going to get about how wrong I am, let me just remind you, this is my opinion. If you think I'm wrong and you have a different opinion, that's fine. That's your opinion. This is my opinion. You know, we can agree to disagree. But anyway, let's head back to the wheel and I will see you guys next time when we review... The Giant Claw. Oh yes. That infamous kaiju movie, and I also think this is the first non-Japanese kaiju movie I'm ever going to review. So I'll see you guys then.